Okay, today we're going to replace the raw water pump on this 2001 5.0 GI. This is my boat. That's the pump we're going to be replacing, and going to replacing it with this $79 one that I did the review on from Amazon. So we'll see how we make out. First, the boat is kept on a lift behind my house, so I'm doing this actually while floating out here. And what I did was lifted the outdrive all the way and put the muffs on it with the hose connected to it, so when I take these hoses off down here, the seawater won't be coming in. So first I'm going to remove those bolts back in there. They're 9/16. That's what holds this arm on right here. This is what keeps the water pump from spinning around. Then I'm going to remove the two hoses and then the 3 Allen bolts that are bolted to the balancer. And then of course you have to take the serpentine belt off, and that's done with a 3/8 ratchet on the tensioner. And all goes well, we won't sink the boat, and hopefully not too much water comes out of there. Alright, got the hoses off. They were a pain. You can see there's really nothing dripping out of here with the outdrive up and the belt or the muffs on. And I took that bracket off that holds the water pump, and now I'm going to work on taking these out and then take the serp belt off and pull this pump off there. Hopefully these aren't too corroded on there. All this corrosion is due to me boating in salt water. When I bought the boat, the circulating pump had a leak at the weep hole, meaning the bearings going bad, seals bad, so it was splashing salt water all around in here. And since I got the boat, I've had to clean that pulley up, replace the bearing in the idler here, new alternator, and a new pulley on the power steering. So in this pump here, it would just leak just a couple drops when starting the boat for the first time, meaning that raw water is going through the bearing into the seal and coming out the weep hole. And being that I boat in salt water, I don't want this to let go while I'm out there. If it was fresh, I probably would continue to run it till actually the leak got worse. But being that it's salt, I don't want to take a chance of spraying the engine compartment again. So let's see if we can't get these Allen screws out. I was sort of surprised I was able to get these bolts loose. 2 of them are actually out. It's a 5/16 Allen to get these out. And once I got everything loose, I was using a long ratchet. There it is, my snap-on swivel head. So I had some torque. You know, you may want to use a breaker bar, a little 3/8 breaker bar, but they were tight. A regular little ratchet probably would have struggled pretty good, but had a good little bit longer ratchet. I'm got the serp belt off and gonna pull this pump off. Okay, got the pump off. You can see, I don't know if you can see that weep hole or not. It's got some rust in there. That's where it was dripping out, and didn't want it to leak and spray all over, be a couple miles offshore or something, and have this thing come apart and have to get towed back in. So I'm gonna bolt the new one up and go from there. There's really no room for a tripod, so I can't leave it out here, but you guys know the gist of this. Okay, got all the bolts tight. Went around. You can move this so you can get to all the bolts. The impeller will self-center, so you don't have to worry about that. You can move this thing either way that you want. They'll all come out. Especially this one's nice and greased inside as when I open it up. We saw that. Belt is back on. And now I'm going to hook up the bracket to hold this pump in its place, and then put the hoses back on. Make sure it's a decent job. Putting those bolts in way back in there, I use a short 9/16 socket, so that way the bolt doesn't stick out. If you use it deep, the bolt goes back inside. This you can actually, the bolt will stay in there as you get it ready. And if you drop it, well, it goes in the bilge and you have to go sticking your hand under the engine. So I'm going to make sure I don't do that. So we'll get that together and put the hoses back on, tighten them up, and drop the drive, make sure nothing's leaking before I kick her off. All right, we're all back together. That bracket holding that in, if this boat was on a trailer, I probably would sand it down and paint it. It's got a lot of rust on it from the previous owner. I put the hoses on before I put that clamp on, just gives you a little bit more room down below. And also recommend when you're tightening the hoses, using a nut driver. If yours has a 5/16 nut on it, that's so much easier than using a flat blade screwdriver. It actually stays on, you can get better torque on it. So, gotta clean up a little bit, drop the drive, and we'll light her off. See what happens. Well, it looks like it moves around a lot. I don't know what the old one, how much it moved around either. So, I don't know, put my hand on it, it's cool, so it's definitely pulling. Engine's not overheating or anything, but then again, I'm still here at the dock. So, I am going to have to take it out, run the heck out of it, and keep it on the temps, make sure this thing's working and doesn't start leaking. Only has like a 30-day return warranty on it, and I've had it for probably 2 weeks now. So we will see what happens. I prefer OEM, but 350 bucks up, 350 to 500 actually for a OEM Volvo. That's just a lot. I'm sorry. And the one I took off, it doesn't say anything about Volvo on it, so I'm suspecting it's an aftermarket too. So time will tell. We'll take her out and run her around 4,000, 4,200 or so for a while and see what happens. We'll update. Well, I just got back after about a 2.5 hour run with some red line runs up around 5,200, cruise at 35, 3,800, and everything's holding together. No leaks. Did a little investigation. A lot of people say a wobble is normal. Even somebody who bought a brand new OEM Volvo on Amazon said they had a wobble too. So I'm going to let this wobble go, and I'll keep an eye on it. And what I'm probably going to do is spray the pulley as well as those little bolts that are magnetic with silicone, just keep them from rusting. That's what I did with the alternator. And it's holding together. It didn't. It's not rusting or anything. So, little silicone goes a long way in a harsh environment. So, I'm gonna call this job well done. 2.5 hours, but we'll see. Maybe it'll come apart. If it does start leaking or anything, I will update definitely. Some of the earlier ones, they actually have pins on the back of that pulley that's sitting in little nubs on the harmonic balancer. This one does not, so this can bolt straight on, and I call it a job. 79 versus 350. I'd rather have an OEM, but you know what? I'll take what I can get. Very cool. Hey, hit subscribe. See what else I have coming up on YouTube.